Here we are back again, live at Miller Industries, bringing the Florida Tow Show for 2020 directly to you. So today we're going to be demonstrating the 1075 on this W900 Kenworth that belongs to Anthony in Englewood in Dayton, Ohio. We're also going to be bringing another video with you on the 1075 a little bit later on. So we're going to have a set of twins doing a dual recovery. Today we have a single rotation that we're doing with this particular pick. But before we get going, Billy and I want to take the time to talk a little bit about the 1075. And of course we got the wonderful and only Mr. Mike Frazier over here in the background with the
you ready, Mike?
The T300 sitting there. We're going to talk a little bit about the difference with the T300 from the video that we showed you on Tuesday or last week with the new 3100 series. So 1075, you know, we came out with the M100. You're actually going to catch some shots of the M100 in the background on October the 1st. And, you know, of course, the word was out that the M100 was coming. And during that period of time, our production levels on the 1079 never really backed up. So this year, we actually exceeded last year's build on the 1075, and we're already off to a big start for 2020 with deliveries here. As a matter of fact, we had over 5 of them going to the Florida trade show. 3 already spoken and 2 were dealer units. So 1075 still has its merit from what we were doing with the big horse in the family up until we brought the M100 out. You have a 5-winch unit right here with the HHU. We have the street lowrider on it, very much similar to with the video that we had with you earlier. We're running the dual H-beam on here, which gives you a spread of some 262 inches from left to right, both at the front and the rear. Now, the neat part about this recovery boom is when we did the 1075, all of our customers that were familiar with the Challenger 9909 wanted boom power. And that's really where the 1075 stands out above all of our units that we had done prior to this. And, you know, it's going to cost a little bit in weight in order to get that additional power. But that's what we get when you want to be able to push 50, 60,000, which you're going to see right here. This tractor trailer that we did the demonstration on Tuesday of last week, sitting here at 60,000 pounds. We're going to do a full rotation of 180 degrees with it in the air. We're going to kind of talk about some pretty neat rigging that Mike rigged up in order to achieve this goal of rotating that recovery boom. But let's talk a little bit about the 1075, dual 60,000 pound DP planetary winches, dual 22,000 pound turret winches. You have the ability of doing a single 35, a single 50, or, you know, even up to a dual 35,000s if you wanted to, for a total of 6 winches on this machine. So that's capable of doing that. The hook height on this at 60 degrees elevation, we're just short of 500 inches, or some 41 feet. And that's hook height. That's from the girth of the hook down to the ground. So, you know, ample amount of horsepower to extend that recovery boom, ample amount of hook height in order to get up to that high reach or get something inside of the trailer that we're doing here. And of course, the elevation power is matched with the 9-inch elevation cylinders on here, which is an increase of 1 inch over what we were doing previously in the 1060s. So, you know, we've got some really neat features that we want to talk a little bit. We're going to come around and look at it a little bit from the passenger side, talk a little bit more about some of the options that we have here with the proportional controls and the right-hand controls that come standard with the proportional package, as well as the wireless that Mike will be using. Billy?
Yeah, let me pick up there, John. So, John, as he talked about the control system, we talked about the Raptor system in our last series. This is a non-Raptor proportional system. So a lot of you out there still like to have that ability to be able to grab that handle, have that lever that goes directly into the valve. So this system gives you that, but then also gives you the ability to run that proportional wireless controller that you see Mike has over here. So we have that ability to run that T300 and give you that full wireless proportional control and still give you some of those features, not all of the features that you get on the Raptor system, but give you some of those features that you're looking for. One of the things or a couple of things that we're going to highlight. First, you've got a load sensing system. So even though we just have one screen on the driver's side control station, we have the ability to change the parts of line or lines to the load and show you how much capacity that your recovery boom has at any of the 360-degree positions. That's going to operate off 4 different sensors. So one sensor is the boom extension sensor, so it's going to tell you actually how far the boom is extended. It's going to start and then go from on a 1075 go to 22 feet. So we have 22 feet of boom extension. As John was talking about, that power of the 1075 that you can get out there to that 22 feet. We have the 2 sensors inside of the turret, one for boom angle and then one for truck angle. So if your truck's a little bit down at an embankment, let's say, and then you got your recovery boom coming up, it'll give you that angle of your recovery boom. And then you've got sensors on the lift cylinders itself that actually sense how much pressure is on those lift cylinders when you lift that load. So we're not measuring how much that we're winching or pulling to us. We're actually measuring that tip load on the recovery boom when we pick that load up. So when we start this recovery here, where you're going to notice when Mike goes to pick it up, we're going to lift again with the winches. We always talk about lifting with the winches because we're going to find that center of gravity. That's something that you'll see and we're going to touch on a little bit later here. Finding that center of gravity. We know kind of where it is by being able to look at it, but we're truly not going to know that exact center of gravity until we lift with those winches. So we'll pick up on one side and then on the other, get the casualty fully off the ground, and then what we'll do is just simply drive a little bit of fluid to that boom lift cylinders. So those boom lift cylinders will then sense that pressure. It's going to tell us exactly how much load is on that recovery boom. So we've got a capacity that's taken from those 4 sensors that we talked about earlier for boom extension, boom angle, and where it is in that circle of our lifting area. And then we'll have our actual load on the recovery boom, and that chart will show us that the percentage of that. So where we are, whether we're 20, 30, 40, 50% of our capacity.
Yeah, there's no
as
guesswork.
we go and pull that.
No more guesswork to this, and the increments that we're doing this lift, what Billy was talking about, is within 100 pounds. So your accuracy is very, very solid when you're getting that information that's coming up to the screen. Let's talk a little bit about what we're doing with some of the rigging on here and the fact that we've got our dual spreader bars. You know, we came out with our spreader bars probably, gosh doggone, over 10 years ago. Just looked at a VIN number, we're over 2,200 that we have in the field, and our failure rate is next to zilch. And not a damage factor up on there. These spreader bars will go from 100 to 105 to 110 inches, basically getting a strap outside the casualty, even on a 102 wide body. And the other thing is that 40,000 pounds that it's picking up, the spreader bar complete weighs just 105 pounds. And it can be broken down into 5 parts, with the heaviest part being the actual tube itself, some 64 pounds. What does this mean? 2 things. One, it's not a struggle for you to handle once you're wanting to put this together at all. Number 2 is you can carry it with your vehicle at all times and not take away the towing ability that we so hard to work on all the Miller line of getting that weight factors in there. Even though we've got the horsepower to do what you're going to see here in just a little bit, we remain very light for a 75-ton unit compared to our competitors' 60-ton ratings. So, you know, you're going to see on here, we've got the angle on one pair of the straps at 45 degrees, another set of the strap at 60 degrees. The key thing always about the spreader bars is you never, ever run a hook from the cable to the one end of the spreader bar. You always have a fixed angle. Unfortunately, when you do this, you give up height. But the main thing is you never change the lift capacity of that rating at either at 30, 45, or 60 degrees. You can't take 2 cables, hook it to the end, and as you start to lift it, that angle changes, and therefore you're dramatically derating the spreader bar. Never do it that way, ladies and gentlemen. Always do what you see right here on the rigging. The other thing that you've noticed is we've got the chains coming up under the undergirth. With the chains up on the undergirth, we've taken these wood blocks and we're softening that edge as they're coming around there by placing that wood block up onto the link. Another tool that you have in order to take that load off those links as they're coming around that sharp edge. Nice little feature up on there. The other thing that we've got is we've got the BA container links that we've put on this, And what we've done in order to make this similar to what you saw yesterday, or last week, sorry, in the 1150 demo when we were treating this as one complete unit, we're actually taking the cab out of this program. If you notice, the cab, the front steer tires are actually a little bit up in the air. By having them up a little bit in the air, we've taken from the locks up at the corners and crisscrossed it. Very much similar to what you saw what we did when we were taking from the landing gear back to the frame rails on Tuesdays. We are actually going to the cab mount and crisscrossing this, and now we're taking the cab, which also has a block of wood underneath the fifth wheel, totally out of the picture. And that's why you're seeing the 4 straps, 2 on the front, 2 on the rear, working solely on the container, because this method right here and what he's done with supporting that cab is allowing the pick only to come from the front. From the container. Now, 2 things. We talk about this in rotator school. When we start doing the rotation, you're going to have a little bit chance to see, and maybe if you're catching one of the videos over to the side, notice that the straps are not running even. Notice that the strap going to the cab is going to be a little bit more straight up and down, and the other one is going to be out at an angle. That means that this one going out at an angle when you're doing the lift is going to be picking a lot more than what your vertical strap is right there in that middle. So you've got that point of stability, and you've got that point of a lot of weight in that straight line. I apologize, I just messed up on that point on that straight line. Now when we get out here, you're going to notice that the rear line is going to swing out a lot wider than when we go around this corner. So that's always kind of the key thing when you're looking at doing a rotation. You've got to control that weight, not only from the driver's side, but as it comes around the tailboard, as well as moving over to the passenger side. Always think where that weight is. Where's that engine? Where's that cargo? What weighs the most? Where's my balance? Put those numbers in your head and try to find that CG to the best of what you can. Billy's got some features over here that he wants to show you.
I want to talk a little bit about the setup. As we were doing the recovery last week, we were lifting, doing a reverse roll, picking that load away from us. Today we're going to do a lift and a rotate, similar to what you saw us do on the 1135 video with that coil behind me. So because we're going to lift and rotate, we want the setup of this truck is very important. You'll notice that we've cribbed all of the outrigger pads. You'll see those on all 4 corners. Because we do know what's underneath us here. We know that this parking lot has sufficient
rotomold concrete
underneath it, and it's got plenty of stability. But in a case where we wouldn't know necessarily what was underneath us, you always want to be able to crib. So we put these 4x6s under each one of those pads to give us extra surface area to increase the stability of the truck. So we're going to raise it up off of the wheels and tires, using that truck somewhat like a counterweight. So we're getting it up on those 4 corners, and that's going to maximize the stability of this unit as we go and bring this load around the corner. I've got these pins here in front of me on the outrigger, and I want to highlight on those. This isn't something that we're going to use during this recovery, but a lot of times when a customer takes delivery of our new unit, he pulls these out of the box. Well, just, what am I supposed to do with this thing? So this is a dual H unit, so you'll actually have 4 of these pins that come in here, and these are the locking pins for the outriggers. So if we were to have a heavy pull or a push against these outriggers, if we were working off to the side, let's say, we were pulling that load to us where we wanted to compress that cylinder, or if we were using that spade attachment and we wanted to pull against that cylinder, these pins are actually going to be used to be able to neutralize that extension cylinder. Those extension cylinders that are in those outrigger setups are just designed in order to send the outriggers in and out. They're not designed to take that heavy load. We don't want to bend that cylinder, which can happen, and we don't want to pull that packing out as it goes. So we have 2 of these pins, and you'll see they'll go simply here in between the 2nd and 3rd stage on the outside, and then they'll also go here on between the outer housing and the 2nd stage here on the main HB. So that's, again, as we go, and if we're pulling, and John's taking the screw pin shackle and put it on the end of this outrigger here. So if we were going and we were pulling that load to us, it'd be wanting to pull on that cylinder, and those locking pins there are going to neutralize that cylinder. A lot of times this is used in conjunction with this spade attachment. On a dual H setup like you see here, You'll notice there's 2 spade attachments with this unit. So if we're pulling off to one side, either one side or the other, we can't pull from both sides. We'll be using that spade attachment. It's going to come up from the bottom through these holes in the outrigger pad, and then we just have really just a retainer pin that runs all the way across there to hold that spade attachment in there.
Yeah, and if you notice on that, if you come right over here and look underneath the toolbox, you can see that storage bin that we've made there. So you don't have to put that part in your toolbox after getting down into the aggregate, whatever it might be, the mud, the snow, the ice. It actually stows back onto the outside. And we've done that with our fifth wheel also. And that allows you to be able to get back into the shop, put your pressure washer to it, and you don't have to worry about taking it out of the box and cleaning your box and whatever. So fifth wheel, spade attachment, now storage bins up underneath. Spade attachments for winching. If we were winching directly off the tailboard, of course, our legs would be retracted. You've noticed the new spade that we've been out now for some 2 to 3 years, and we've taken that spade across the whole product line on all of our extensions. So no longer are we having separate spades for rotators integrated, Centuries, and Vulcan. It's all basically one design. So a very good feature up on that. Multiple places to tie back on. You got the low pull behind the spade comes down. You got that ability to come back to the lower part of the spade, as well as multiple D-rings up on the tailboard for the full use. So
you want to go over the snatch blocks with them, John, and then I'm going to unmic myself. I won't be on the mic for the rest of the deal. I'm going to turn the mic over to Mike. He's going to talk to you about the lift and the recovery. So
back
we
to the mic
appreciate
and
you all
mic
watching. Don't go away just yet.
now what we've seen over the last couple of years is the fact that we've worked really hard with our Crosby partner on snatch blocks. And when we look at that snatch block, we're looking at, getting it to the weight out of it and still keeping the capacity. So that's a key thing on that part. So here we have the 1058, which is an 8-ton block. It can handle 5/8 or 3/4 cable up on there, 25 to the 35,000 pound winches. Nice part about this, it's only weighing around 28 pounds. And we introduced the Evolution block, which you see where we got a good bit of weight out of it. This is our 15-ton block. We also do this in the 12-ton. And this 15 sits there coming in right at 48 pounds. So you've got that capability of being able to carry 2, keeping that weight out. This can handle from 3/4 to 7/8. It has a larger width thickness in the bell, as well as a larger sheave and a larger throat, on the hook to handle that increase to the 15 tons from the 12-ton block that we've had out for some 10 years. True alloy, that's where the weight savings is. It's a critical part to that. Yes, it's expensive, but it's a tool. If you take care of it, will last a lifetime up there. A lot easier when you go to start handing to your partner or whomever up and moving snatch blocks up onto the side of a trailer, and just a lot easier when it comes to rigging. And of course, the less weight that this is, the less weight we're carrying in the toolbox.
And it makes it a lot easier to clean.
Yeah, that's true. It's true as far as dragging them up through the mud. You're not getting that in collection when you're doing that recovery side of it.
And if they do get it in there, it's simple to just wash it out and make sure you grease them.
Yeah, the critical thing that we always see is sometimes because it's brand new, you guys will just immediately take something and jump right into it, i.e. not power wrap the cables, i.e. not lubricate these, new tools that they come even as they're lubricated from the factory. Take that time to do this. This should be part of your, PM, just that you're doing with your equipment on a monthly basis. Always grab those blocks. Hate to see it when you go to turn those handles and you're starting to find something to beat on the handle because you forgot to clean it or you put a hard pull on it from the time before. Always have everything ready to go. Place for everything and everything in its place. And that's one of the things that we talked about in multiple videos previously here that we've done over the past couple of weeks. Storage, in the toolboxes. And the rotators aren't any, less for that part. So thank you, William. Appreciate it. All right, so Mike, let's talk a little bit about this. We've, used this container multiple times over the years in our rotator school. The cabin chassis now is supplying us the means of being able to get around. Before, we always used to have one, so we appreciate having that come from the great state of Michigan for us and being tied up into there. But why don't you talk a little bit about what I mentioned on the 3/8, and maybe if we have a camera. I think, Joseph, did you go down directly onto those links? Yeah? Good. Okay. All right.
On the top there we got the B8 container links as you see, and all I did is take them up there, install them in the pocket, come down with the 3/8 chain, cross chain them, so when we are lifting and rotating this unit, the tractor can't go left or right. It's actually fixed. And then on the back side of the fifth wheel, I put a piece of hardwood back there, just so when it does, you lift it, you have the wood coming up there, and it takes up the space in between the frame of the tractor and the frame of the truck. And then we put half-inch grade 100 chains around the chassis frame with the blue straps up to the spreader bars, and with the orange spreader bar kit straps we have up there to make sure that you're in your proper angle for the load of the spreader bar. And we have the 15-ton alloy blocks, the 17-ton screw pin shackles at the top, so we're well within our working load limit on everything.
You know, and it's really critical that when you're rigging this, that you use that chain or that length of strap. So we sell straps in 12 to 16 foot lengths. Your chains can make them adjustable into a 14 foot. You notice the space above the container. If that spreader bar was only 6-8 inches above that container, that means more height. So you're already losing height because of the 45 or the 60 degree angle we talked about earlier. So rigging is very critical when you have to know that you're going to lift something and you need the height.
The front one's a 10 and the back one's a 12, because I knew
right.
the center of gravity would be a little bit off.
That's right.
Because the weight's up front, so I put a shorter one up front.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this lift similar to what Billy was talking about. We're going to bring it up with the cables. It's always the easiest way to do it. Of course, we're going to bring it up with one cable first and then the back cable, or the front cable first and the back cable later, because we want to minimize that swing when we're doing it. We never know where the CG is. We don't have something like they do in the crane industries where everything's written down and it's all known and everything. You guys get a bill of manifest and you're not going to really know exactly where the weight is. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we come live onto the camera. As we come around the corner, we're level with our front screen on there. So we're just sitting there taking the passenger side cable, lifting it up, got the rear up a little bit. Now it's suspended up in the air, so we've got this 60,000 pounds. And I think on this one, I looked at the chart, we're at 19 feet of extension. So from the center line of this 1075 to the center line of that Freightliner logo in the grill, we're 16 feet away from the unit. And what we're going to do is, once Mike starts that rotation, which I'd like to see in the whole program, is, you know, once you start the rotation, not really a reason for it to stop. You know, that's nice slow motion that you want to do. You're getting that audible alarm that you have on here to let you know that you are rotating the unit. And as we come around this corner, I'm going to talk a little bit about where's the load as we start seeing the straps. The only thing you need to do is have that means of clearing the outriggers as you come around the corner. That's 12 to 14, 15 inches depending on your cribbing. The next thing is you want to make sure that you don't get any higher. If you have any issues that's happening, you want to minimize any part of the rigging, a strap letting go, a screw pin shackle failing, a link failing, whatever could be the situation. You want to make sure that whatever you're lifting has a minimum distance to go down to the ground. That also saves your truck. And we teach that in school again when we're talking about running that container, lifting it up from 60, 80 feet, that you saw just 3 or 4 months ago with Jacob and Curtis out of the Indianapolis market when they did that loaded container coming out over the bridge on the interstate out there. Very unique how we've taught that working with the two units. Now you're starting to get a side view of it. Look at your front strap. Look at your front strap and how it's almost, it's not hanging straight down, but it's only out there at about 10 or 12 degrees. Look at this strap at the back. It's further out. It's 30 or 40 degrees. So that automatically tells us, here's my weight, because it's hanging straight down. This is really only balancing it. So right there, once we did our lift and you started to see these attachments start to take that load, that tells you, operator, hey, this is my controls, this is what I've got to do, this is where I need to concentrate on that weight. Now you're going to have a lot more overhang over here when she comes around, because that's why that strap is running out a lot further. So your clearance on the swing is going to be a lot more, need to pay attention out here to make sure you're not running into the corner of the building or doing anything that another vehicle, a bollard at the building or what have you. Want to pay attention to that. That's the nice part of working with the wireless controller. You're able to walk with the load, watch with the load, see what's happening. I can actually look over to the opposite side right now and watch that opposite side front outrigger, and to see that it's firmly planted on the ground with this 60,000 pounds.
We're getting into the lever is the longest right here. We're right here in the most important part here in the corner. The rule of thumb is if you're outside the outrigger, you're away from the tailboard. As you can see, we do have the wheel lift folded down. It gives you another additional probably 10 to 12 inches as minimum, and it gives you a lot more room to work around the back. So just a good idea just to fold that thing down and just get it out of the way if you can.
Now Mike talked about the longest distance. So what he's saying is this tractor trailer is a lever. Just imagine you had a pole and you were going to the pad on the front outrigger and you're trying to lift it up in the air. The lever is the longest distance right here with this particular 1075 model. So that's why you see those front outriggers get light. But here with this weight coming around the corner, as you're going to see not only on the side that we just lifted, but going around the corner over onto on the passenger side, that she's going to remain stable with us. Screw pin shackles. Always notice that we've got that screw pin shackle so that the thumb eyelet here at the end is not digging into the container. It's to the outside. Rule of thumb is, when you insert that threaded bolt into the actual clevis itself, tighten that up, back it up a quarter. A little bit of myth, that is that true or fallacy. I'm not going to get into that argument, but I just did a lift the other day down at our RV park, and after I got done, I had to go get a pair of pliers in order to loosen up the thumb bolt. So I like that quarter turn.
We're back to the longest lever again here, John, in this corner. As you can see, just taking my time, coming around. Got plenty of clearance. Easy to walk with the remote. I can see where the tractor and trailer, how close they are. I can look over on that outrigger on the opposite side to make sure it's still on the ground.
And yeah, we're just sitting here at a dead idle. Speed in this particular situation, that's always the thing that gets you into trouble. So nice slow motion, running here at 680 RPMs, idle speed on this Kenworth W900 with this 250 foot-pounds of torque, 605 horsepower Cummins engine, and a 15-liter sitting up there underneath that hood. Also, one of the things that you have is the Midway suspension that we worked with Midway on putting the taller saddle, and that means that we keep that height in that rear suspension when we're doing those heavy loads. And I think, again, as a complete package, Miller just doesn't think about the recovery side. Miller doesn't think of just the towing side. I think as a combined rotator package, nobody comes close to us when it comes to that capacity of building in that means of handling 60,000 pounds that you have here, and with the truck sitting solid, as you can see, and or the ability of towing 20, 30, 40,000, maybe from either the front in a tandem steer configuration or from the rear, as you'll see, I think, in our 9055 video that's coming up, where we picked up the 4-axle concrete mixer from the rear, because we're simulating that rear axle bearing being gone, or the suspension broken itself. A lot of nice features up on this 1075. One of this will become the state work for the Englewood Towing Company. I can go back working with Anthony's dad in the early mid 1980s, and they had an 1801, and I remember they bought one of our first 1060 rotators in a Challenger 9909, and now they're bringing this into their stable as their flagship unit with the Century 1075. A lot of bling, no doubt about that. Dual pylons. We've got the Weekend Wayland light bar, which is exclusive to Miller Industries.
Two of them.
Two of them. Dual, that's
One on
right.
the cab, too.
Well, we got three. My apologies up one there. And also what we've done with the Lumitech package with the H120s mounted there on the 22Ks, as well as the motorized motor that's on the light that's mounted up underneath the recovery boom. We know at nighttime that light is critical, and the package that we put on the M100 for the Insana Boys, as you see in the background, will absolutely supersede anything that we've done, matching the one for Mr. Petrov on his package. So we're working all the time to improve that lighting for toolboxes underneath the vehicle, in the body. So when you have to do anything to the truck, you automatically have something to go to real quick, hit that switch, and be able to see what you're doing.
I really like how it's movable, like on the motor.
The one thing that's always bugged me about being able to change the angle, and they did it with just taking a marine, trim tap cylinder, which was made for being underneath the water. And so its life expectancy is forever, sitting on that Lumitech motor up on there, being able to change that angle from what you see at 180 degrees parallel with the boom and lowering it down some 70 degrees swing. So that's our demo with the 1075. We've got one more demo coming up with the twins on the 1075, and then I think that the tandem 9055 is yet to show. Is that video showed yet? We've got that, and I think we're doing it in two formats. We're doing the towing side and the recovery side of that. And then, if everything holds true and time goes on and EPB keeps us up with the internet, which they're doing a great job. I want to thank Billy and Mike Frazier. Last 4 days they've been out at David Bannon's house, which is just on the east side, along with Will Miller and a bunch of other Miller employees. David came with us when the Vulcan family's been a huge asset for us in the military program, and just having these guys and showing that his home is devastated. It lost just about everything, and be able to collect his belongings and get that into a storage facility and watch the camaraderie of the Miller family and everybody going out there, and as I said, including Will, just kudos to you guys, and it shows you just exactly how important we play it as a family. So until later, I want to extend my thanks for William jumping in and assisting me with the specs, Mike, with the operation of the machine and showing his skill, and the marketing guys that are out here with the drone flying and the 3 different cameras. Hopefully this is some good information that we're getting on to you, and we look forward to bringing 2 more, we know, live videos coming to you. All right, see you. Happy Monday.
Have a good day.
This video is for product demonstration purposes only and is not intended for training or instructional purposes. Situations vary, and operators should rely on their own professional knowledge and safety procedures when conducting actual recoveries.